only Christmas tree worth having this year is the Tree of Evolutionary Life, now in its limited edition winter form. Grab this limited time poster now while you can. It depicts every single Pokemon and how they'll be related to each other, including the all-new Melmetal. Using the links below, grab one for yourself or for a friend.
Hey Pokemon Masters, Birdkeeper Toby here, and welcome back to Kanto Week. A new video on the channel every single day this week to celebrate the release of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, all themed around the Kanto region. And as many of you know, my primary thing that I used to do on the channel loads and I still try and do occasionally is Pokemon theories. And don't you worry, when Let's Go comes out, I will be on the lookout far and wide for any little details, extra things, Easter eggs that, will really help with the Pokemon theorizing. But for now, I thought it would be fun to recap. I'm going to take 10 Kanto Pokemon and just revisit 10 of my favorite or classic theories about these Pokemon. 10 theories that I thought were particularly solid, that were particularly good. And of course, you can let me know any Kanto-related theories that you want in the comments every time you leave a like or a comment on a video this week or any of my videos titled Let's Go Eevee or Pikachu. It acts as an entry towards a giveaway for you to win a copy when the games come out. There's a worldwide competition, so join in, you might get a copy for free. So let's start off with theory number 1. Voltorb is a possessed Pokeball that is possessed not by Haunter, but by Rotom. So, pretty common theory that people have heard before is that Voltorb is a possessed Pokeball, and for anyone who's under dispute about this, there are many Pokedex entries talking about how specifically Voltorb was first seen in a Pokeball making factory. The Pokeball came before Voltorb. Voltorb is, and the first place it was found was a Pokeball factory. That means there's a pretty good chance that this isn't something that just evolved in nature, but rather it's some kind of weird possession Pokeball mutation related thing. And granted, there's a lot of theories about this. Some say that Haunter possessed a Pokeball, others talk about how that there's infinity energy in a Pokeball, and so maybe some Pokeballs have turned themselves into living Pokemon. And they're great, but my favorite one, and this is one that I came up with Hoops and Hip Hop, is that Voltorb is a possessed Pokeball possessed by a Rotom. And there's sort of two reasons behind this. Number 1 is that we already know that Rotom loves possessing technology. It's got all of its different forms that are it, possessing various bits of technology. On top of that, the Pokeball has capturing properties of its own. That's the point of it. The point is for it to capture other Pokemon. And so the theory has always been, regardless of whether it's Haunter or Rotom, is that the Pokemon trying to possess it then gets stuck within the capturing mechanic of the ball, and that's why they can't leave, they can't separate, it becomes a new thing. But with Rotom in particular, it's quite a rare Pokemon, only really appearing in old buildings, derelict buildings that might not have an awful lot of technology lying around. Wherever there is technology, Rotom is drawn to it, it wants to be part of it. But in these buildings, like the old chateau, or like, there's a building in Kalos that I can't remember the name of, these abandoned areas. In these areas, there's presumably not a lot of technology because they're old abandoned things, and that's why Rotom has managed to survive there. But in the rest of the Pokemon world, out and about, most of them have been drawn towards the most common object in the Pokemon world, the Pokeball, and become Rotom. And still being drawn to electricity and electrical areas, that's why then Rotom now in the Pokeball, now Voltorb, is drawn to power plants. But being so trapped in the Pokeball, it becomes its own new species of Pokemon capable of evolving into Electrode. Perhaps the shiny form is just a possessed Great Ball, not sure. But to me, this theory makes sense. I think it makes a lot more sense than the Haunter theory because there's no reason in particular that Haunter would possess a Pokeball. The only similarity I've ever seen there is the eyes, which, again, it's like it's taking over a whole, it's the Pokeball that's capturing it back, so it becomes a whole new thing. But those are just my feelings, and that is the Rotom Voltorb theory. Number 2 is a mini theory by our good friend Noggin. They say that Ghastly is just a head apparating from another dimension, and then as it evolves into Haunter, its hands begin to bleed through. It is beginning to manifest itself into this reality, and Gengar is an actualization of that. The whole Pokemon, its whole body, has now managed to actualize itself here. This can all be seen in the Red and Blue Pokedex entry that talks about how Haunter is said to be from another dimension. And that finally, after bleeding through the walls of reality, it becomes Mega Gengar and latches itself on to the Earth. I don't know, not much theory there, but a cool little story, and I've always loved it. I've always thought that that's what's going on with Ghastly as it apparates through all the different iterations. Although if you really want a Ghastly Gengar Pokemon theory, there's no shortage of them. Like Gengar being the shadow form of Clefable, or that Ghastly gets lost at sea and becomes Shelder and Cloyster, and that's why they're next to each other in the Pokedex, and that when Shelder bites onto a Slowpoke, it gets its powers because of the Ghastly that... Do you know what? I'm lost. I'm done. Wait, hang on, isn't Clefable from space? Does that make it a Space Ghost dimension thing? My brain. Number 3 is a classic one again that Noggin has covered before. This one is about Cubone and its origins, and I know you've probably heard both of these a number of times. But here are your options. A Cubone is an abandoned Kangaskhan baby that changes its form, wears the skull of its mother, and then evolves into Marowak. Or Cubone is an abandoned Charmander. The mother Charizard, or Charmeleon, which its skull more accurately represents, has left it alone. It hasn't had its tail fire ignited, and so it just has this brownish, dullish kind of color. And that explains why Marowak and Charmeleon actually have surprisingly similar body shapes, again, just without the tail being on fire. And could also explain the fire-type origins of Alolan Marowak. However, I think Pokemon have even kind of confirmed that it's more the Kangaskhan direction, because when you SOS chain Cubone in Pokemon Sun and Moon, Kangaskhan, the parental Pokemon, can appear and protect the baby Cubone. As for which one you side on, is Cubone a baby Kangaskhan or Charizard, or maybe you got another suggestion? I think I prefer the Charizard, but I think the Kangaskhan is more likely to be real. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. Number 4, also about Charmander and the Charmander line. Charmander's body is filled with a poisonous gas. Okay, hang on, where is this going? This is a theory that I came up with, or that the Alchemist came up with, and I think I did in a video with him once. But I really love it. It makes total sense that Charmander's body is filled with the gas methane. Methane is a flammable gas, and the idea is that there's a little hole in the tip of Charmander's tail that it expels the methane and sort of ignites it. And the reason that Charmander gets sick and dies when the flame goes out is because it's no longer expelling the methane correctly. Instead, the methane is building up in its body and allowing it to potentially die. This also makes sense as to how Charizard and maybe other dragon Pokemon can fly. If Charizard has lungs filled with methane, 1, that makes sense as to how they can breathe fire and why they expel fire out their tail, and 2, it would help them fly. This is because methane is more buoyant than air, it's less dense, and this would allow Charizard to lift itself in the air with its wings a lot easier. On top of that, many fire Pokemon are described as having a flame sac in their body, or a flame that is ignited in their body. Possibly, this is the place where the methane is stored and then expelled in the form of either tail fire or fire breath, or in terms of Typhlosion, a really cool neck scarf. Okay, number 5 is a classic one with a bit of an extension. It's another one that we've done on my channel, and that is Blue's Raticate. I did this in the first year of the channel, so it's been a long time since I've revisited this, and you may have heard the first bit, and that is the idea that Blue's Raticate dies, and that I've heard a million different, rebunking and debunkings of it. People saying, yes, this is the reason it's real, or no, this is the reason it's dumb, whatever. And the point is simply, at one point in his journey, Blue, your rival from Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow, has a Raticate on his team, and by the time you get to Lavender Town, he doesn't. And so the idea is that he's there paying respects to his now fallen Pokemon that you defeat on the SS Anne. Okay, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but it's a popular old school theory. What you maybe don't know is that in Pokemon X and Y, there's a character who references Blue. References your rival, saying that he was in Kalos doing some research. Now, the only things that Blue would really be interested in researching in Kalos, of all things, are either, I guess, Mega Evolution, Infinity Energy, or Fashion. And seeing that his Fashion's already pretty on point, I'll go with one of the other two. Now, you might think Mega Evolution, but even in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, when Blue appears at the end of the game, Red appears and Red uses Mega Pokemon, but Blue does not. I suspect the thing he was researching was AZ's weapon and Infinity Energy, specifically the object that AZ used to revive his deceased Pokemon, and sure enough, in the Parfum Palace, the area that AZ once owned, there is someone who tells you that they have an extensive library and they even have a book about resurrecting dead Pokemon, but it's been checked out. Who's checked it out? What was Blue doing in Kalos? What was he researching? Most likely this? Why would he want that book? I don't know, maybe to revive his dead Raticate? Just a theory. Again. Okay, number 6 is another noggin mini theory that I absolutely love, and that is, why is Slowpoke so vacant? What is going on in Slowpoke's brain, especially when you consider something like Slowbro, which is a very okay battler, and then Slowking, that has an IQ of some of the top scientists on the planet. Well, the idea is that Slowpoke is omniscient, and it knows everything. It is such an incredibly powerful psychic Pokemon that it knows so much. I mean, we even see Slowking can talk in the movies, but Slowpoke is just so hyper intelligent that all that intelligence processing all of that information constantly slows it down. So much so that it takes 5 seconds to feel pain after it takes on an attack. I love Slowpoke, it's so good. I'm probably going to use it in Let's Go. Then the idea is that this hyper-intelligent psychic power then gets calmed down when its tail gets bitten on permanently by a Shelder. The incredible power of Slowpoke makes the Shelder transform its entire shape. The constant pain that the Shelder gives allows the Slowpoke to focus and become a Slowbro, and that's because de-evolution is actually a thing in the world of Pokemon. It's not referenced a lot, but when it is referenced, is that if you take the Shelder off of the tail of the Slowpoke just becomes a regular Slowpoke. It de-evolves. So supposedly that's what's going on here, and then when it moves on to the Pokemon's head, according to its Pokedex entries, it releases toxins into the brain. These toxins actually stop the Slowpoke from thinking so hard, so it's less than omniscient as a Slowking, but it is able to focus and control its mind and power. Personally, I think that's an awesome little Pokemon theory. So next up is number 7, Nidoqueen. Why can't it breed? Most Pokemon are in egg groups, obviously. The only exception to that really is legendary Pokemon and baby Pokemon. These Pokemon can't breed, but for some reason, Nidorina and Nidoqueen can't either. Nidoking can, Nidorino can, but not Nidorina and Nidoqueen. Why is that? Well, I think it might be tied in with some baby Nidoqueen that we've seen in one of the Pokemon movies. This was one of the Mewtwo movies, one of the islands where Team Mewtwo was supposedly even created. I don't know whether it was created on this island or it just moved there with a bunch of clone Pokemon. But the theory goes that the reason that Nidorina and Nidoqueen can't breed, unlike Nidorino and Nidoking, is because originally there only was Nidorino and Nidoking, and it was through a cloning experiment gone wrong that these Pokemon are now unable to breed because they are genetically impure. Have you ever wondered why the Nidorans have 2 different evolutionary lines for their genders? I mean, okay, probably it's because genders didn't exist in Generation 1, they did in Generation 2, but possibly, again, all this can be explained with all of these inconsistencies. Originally, there was only one Nidoran line, and that line was owned by Giovanni, who is the head of Team Rocket, someone who studies cloning. We know that he uses Nidoking, and in the research that him and Team Rocket did on preparation on the islands where they were getting ready to clone Mew and make Mewtwo, they tested on Nidorans. Nidorans and or Rhyhorns, because we know those Pokemon are very closely related as well. Like Rhydon is again another Giovanni staple, and Rhydon and Nidoking are both Pokemon he uses as well as Nidoqueen. And Rhyhorn appear alongside the baby Nidoqueen on the island, so maybe there's some kind of genetic cloning situation going on there. But they could never quite get the cloning right, and that's the reason that these Pokemon can't breed. Much like many real-life clones do have that issue where their fertility goes down and a lot of them are infertile. Number 8 is a really old school Pokemon theory brought up by my friend Spectre, and that is that Aerodactyl is the ancestor to Zubat, to the Zubat and Crobat line. Quite simply, they all live in caves, but that's not the only reason. First of all, Aerodactyl's wings are less like that of a dragon and more like that of a wyvern, in which the arms are actually part of the wings, the hands stick out of the wings. This is a typically more bat-like trait that Crobat seems to share. Actually, in my evolutionary tree, I put Crobat in with Aerodactyl. I think I'll probably move it next time and put it in with Mammals, where it should go. Both of these Pokemon are known for being avid hunters, although one of them resides primarily in caves, while Aerodactyl used to supposedly roam the night skies, although we have seen Aerodactyl underground in the show, in an underground cave cavern type area. We know that Aerodactyl has shrill cries, and Crobat and Zubat line are very fond of using the supersonic attack. And the idea is, according to Spectre, that if the Pokemon world had an asteroid hit kind of like how we did to wipe out the dinosaurs, the Aerodactyl would have taken refuge in caves. And in caves, it wouldn't be able to, or have the need to, fly great distances. It would become a lot smaller, and you can see similarities again with the shiny form of Aerodactyl, which is purple with a blue inner wing, as opposed to just like Crobat's coloring. It would develop an extra toe, good for gripping cave walls. It would move a little bit more silently. Crobat is known for being a great hunter that can move through the dark silently. We know that there's a similarity as well, and that both of all of their teeth are on their lower jaws, that kind of thing. The theory states that confined to caves, they become a lot smaller, only really able to feed off of small bugs that skitter around in the caves. They get the poison typing because that is a more advantageous typing for them to have when hunting these bugs, as opposed to the rock typing, which could honestly damage the caves that they're hiding in. And that ultimately, over millions of years, Crobat becomes the descendant of Aerodactyl. I'm not sure I fully believe the theory anymore, but I did remember liking it at the time. I think if I do the evolutionary tree again, I'm probably going to move them away. Number 9 is about Starmie, and its relationship to another space Pokemon, Deoxys. Just to be clear, here are the similarities. Both are Psychic type, One is a space virus, and Starmie is said to come from space, and they both have these sort of cores that allow them, they both use the move recovery pretty regularly, and they both recover from these gemstone cores that they have. Deoxys has a gem in the middle of its body, Starmie has a gem in the middle of its body. It's also worth pointing out that Starmie is some kind of space starfish, and starfish are known for being able to regrow limbs that they lose, and Deoxys is all about changing the look of its limbs. On top of that, Starmie's core is said to signal into the night sky, supposedly like maybe it's messaging home, or maybe it's communicating with the rest of the attack force that is Deoxys, to bring them down to Earth. I don't know, it's a dumb fun little theory, but definitely a relationship between these two Pokemon. I could see it. That Pokemon, of course, was made by Pokemon Insider. Links to all these theories are below. Now, let's move on, because number 10 is one of my favorite. Number 10 is Magikarp. How on earth has Magikarp survived? Well, the fact is that Magikarp is the most dominant species in the whole of the Pokemon world, despite being the most pathetic and weak and easily preyed upon. And I suggest there are 3 big reasons for this. Number 1 is the amount of them. There are so many Magikarp on the planet that being able to eat all of them is simply impossible. Number 2 is the fact that Magikarp has the lowest hatch rate of any other Pokemon. So Magikarp gets born, Magikarp breed, Magikarp make more Magikarp. I mean, the salesman in the boat was actually not all that wrong. This Magikarp will lay 100 eggs, then those Magikarp will lay 100 more eggs each, then those Magikarp will lay 100 more eggs each on top of that. 100 times 100 times 100 is a million. I don't know the guy's math, I can't remember how far he went. But the point is, there are so many Magikarp and they breed so fast that makes them dominant. And then finally, they evolve into Gyarados, which means that they are able to protect their young in big swarms. Gyarados are known as some of the most fearsome Pokemon in the world. You wouldn't go near a Magikarp nest for one Gyarados. One Gyarados could protect like 100 Magikarp. As an addition to that, it could also explain why Feebas happens, but why it's so rare. Feebas might happen to make itself look uglier than other Magikarp, so that predators are less likely to eat it. However, because the Magikarp gene is just so strong, Magikarp basically keep on reproducing in the exact same way, and this oddity, it's not all that successful. That's why Feebas are rare, and then when they evolve, they have to take on a whole different tactic, having to look beautiful so that they can attract the mates of other Gyarados, so that these Milotic will have baby Feebas, and the Gyarados will protect them. So it kind of also explains why Feebas works in that as well. I don't know, it's one of my favorite theories, and one that I was racking my brains about for a long, long time. But that is it. That was just 10 small Kanto theories, quick mini theories, 10 classics, 10 of my faves. Going back through this list, I realized that Pokemon theorizing used to be a lot easier. Like, I feel like the standards for evidence were a lot lower. I don't know, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Anyway, there's 10 classic ones for Kanto. I hope you're looking forward to catching some Kanto Pokemon very, very soon. Let me know if you've got any Kanto theories, of course, in the comments section, where you will be getting a chance to win a copy of Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee. And of course, I will see you tomorrow with some more Kanto content. So hi, Pokemon Masters.
A massive shout out goes to my incredible patrons, many of who you can see the name of on screen now. Most of all to the big patrons of the month, Yoni, Sobin, and Xavis. If you want to find out how you can support the channel, please check out the links to Patreon in the description below and get some of those sweet, sweet perks. Thank you.